Welcome back to CryptosRus. I'm George. We're all George. So, what happened this afternoon? What caused the U.S. market to suddenly turn red and sell off? And what caused Bitcoin to stop it in tracks? Well, Powell happened. And then Yellen happened. And tonight I want to say, don't be screwed by these guys. Buy Bitcoin. And I'm going to explain why. All right, guys, let's do this. Welcome, welcome, welcome. There you go. Look at the U.S. market. It ended at minus 530 for Dow, minus nearly 200 for NASDAQ. And this came after Powell gave, of course, his press conference, which I did stream. We had like almost 11,000 people watching. It was a record. Everyone wanted to see what Powell decided, and he decided to go up by a quarter point for the Fed fund rate. So now we are at 4.75. Okay, so that's that. However, even though he tried to make this seem like this was a normal FOMC meeting, he threw out his usual buzzwords and his usual hawkish tone and language about, the labor market, about the economic softening and housing and all this stuff about decreasing inflation. But everyone wanted to talk about banks, and that was asked during Q&A. Everyone hounded Powell on what's going on with the banks. Are you going to save them all? Are we all in trouble? Are the banks, are they affecting your decision? We went through a lot of it, right? But there were a few things that Powell said that was very, very interesting. He played this off, first of all, why he went with a quarter percentage point instead of 50. He played it off being, we expect there will be credit tightening from the banks. And credit tightening is equivalent to a rate hike. So that's how he downplayed the whole situation. We're being cautious, right? But ultimately, we fear that there may be credit tightening, but it's so early, we don't know, right? We can't really judge the circumstances since it's so early, right? So he kind of said that a couple of times. And also he did say that, further rate hikes may not be warranted. Obviously, it depends on the credit tightening and how badly the banks do overall. He didn't say how badly the banks do, but I'm interpreting for you guys. Overall, he's basically saying, well, it turns out that we have a real crisis in our hands, then of course we're not going to raise rates anymore, if you read in between the lines. But he did say also that SVB was by itself solo, and nothing else is equal to SVB. He did say that because a lot of reporters asked him about SVB. And he's like, no. I just want to clarify what happened with SVB is just on them. It has nothing to do with any other bank out there. So rest assured, our banking system is solid, right? I mean, he has to say that. He can't say the whole thing is a big Ponzi scheme and about to collapse. He has to say, well, everything is good. And then he also hinted that everything was going to be covered. What's everything? All the money. He hinted that basically the Fed and the FDIC and the Treasury Department were going to back every deposit and every depositor. And someone even asked him about that during Q&A, and he's like, well, I said what I said. Well, it turns out that's not exactly what that means. In fact, Janet Yellen, just take a look at this picture. She was sitting in silence saying, WTF, because she actually had to testify in front of the Senate Appropriation Committee where she said, no, we're not going to insure all depositors and deposits. No, we're not talking about a blanket insurance, which Powell just indicated during his press conference, right? So if you got the notion that somehow all deposits from all the banks are covered, think again. That's not the case. It will bankrupt the FDIC basically because the FDIC doesn't have enough money, and it probably, I don't know if it would bankrupt the Fed and the U.S. Treasury because they always print more. But, just know that that is not the case, right? So Powell said some things that were kind of iffy for sure. Okay, and the other thing about, well, SV Bank is by themselves, right? Like they screwed up. No one else is having this problem, right? Well, if that's the case, then why did Janet Yellen just yesterday say that the U.S. is ready to protect depositors at small banks? Well, the reason why she said that is because small banks and mid-sized banks are reported to have bank runs right now, and they're scared. They're asking for help, right? So this whole notion that what happened to SV Bank is so low and it's not happening anywhere else is obviously fake. That's not true. It's happening to a lot of banks right now. And also, let's not forget First Republic Bank. Look at this. Its shares fall sharply because Yellen said, well, we're not going to insure all deposits. As if people thought that they were. I don't know. But First Republic Bank is also another bank that's having deep problems, just like SV Bank. They already were injected $30 billion by other banks. Apparently, that's not enough. JP Morgan supposedly is helping them, basically trying to prepare bankruptcy for them or trying to buy them out. There's something else going on here. So you can't tell me that what's happening with SV Bank or what happened to SV Bank is solo by themselves. No, it happened to many other banks already, right? So that's why today I feel like Powell was very dodgy. I get why he has to put on this face like, hey, you trust us. Continue to leave your money in our banks. I get it. That's your position, right? You have to protect what's out there. But because of that, I feel like, I don't know, he was a little bit disingenuous, so to speak, trying to divert blame and also making promises that can't be kept. There was a lot of that today. And I think that's why the U.S. market or investors or Wall Street kind of took this as a hawkish thing, that Powell is still on a rampage to increase rates because he feels like the banks are solid and there's no worry. That's how I'm interpreting it. That is the reason why the market sold off today, but that's not really accurate, right? There's just a lot of inaccuracies today. Here's going back to the point of, overspending, bailouts, protecting the banks, all that. I mean, just look at this. $300 billion within the last 2 weeks, okay, got printed out of thin air, and this was basically given to banks and the FDIC. So today he mentioned about like $170 billion or $180 billion that was given to FDIC because they needed it. And then the rest probably went into the banks that needed it too. They didn't disclose which banks needed the money, but where did this money come from? Well, that's something that he does not discuss during these Q&A sessions. No one asked him about it. I think they're prohibited from asking him about it, right? But you know what? Let me show you guys something. We don't need to ask him about it because he already stated where the money's coming from. This was a 60-minute interview, I believe, from a couple years ago, about 2 years ago. All right, so listen to what Powell said about where the money comes from.
Say you simply flooded the system with money. Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally. So we, as a central bank, we have the ability to create money digitally, and we do that by buying treasury bills or bonds or other government-guaranteed securities, and that actually increases the money supply. We also print actual currency, and we distribute that through the Federal Reserve banks.
So there you go. That's where the money comes from. They print it digitally. They have an infinite money printer, so when needed, they print it digitally. That's why this $300 billion just came out of nowhere and was given out, right? Because you just have to go on a computer, type some numbers, add some zeros, and you're good. And it has no consequences, right? None whatsoever. Well, unfortunately, there is consequence, and that's this. And I've been showing you guys this. I showed this for 3 streams. I'll continue to show it because this proves my point. The consequence is this. Money printing equals your buying power decreasing. There is an inverse relationship, okay? And in the last, and this is only going up to 2008, okay? If this continued to 2020 and now to 2023, you would see the money printing sharply going upward toward the moon, because we printed over 40% of new fresh currency within the last 3 years. It literally, that red line you see would be flying up to the moon. Someone needs to be updating that, right? That's the consequence. But overall, this is why we're being screwed right now by government. And this stream is about U.S., right? Obviously the Fed, the U.S., and all that stuff. But, it applies to every country. It applies to every country on this planet, because every central bank is basically doing the same thing. Everyone is raising rates, trying to curb inflation, and it's all caused by money printing within the last 3 years. And even before, there's an inflation rate. Every single central bank on earth has an inflation rate set to print X amount of money, and over time, your buying power just decreases. This is the reason why someone stood up, back in 2009 and said, enough is enough. We're going to create something that's not dependent on monetary policy and not dependent on the Fed or any government, right? And that's Bitcoin. So even though Bitcoin dipped down a little bit to 27.2, obviously we did not break into 29 and 30 as some of us wanted, right? But overall, we got set back like a day, okay? Just to keep things into perspective. We didn't get set back by like 2 weeks or 5 months or a year. No, we got set back by simply a day. But this is the reason why it's more important than ever to stick with Bitcoin, because you know what? All the shenanigans that's going on right now is not helping. It's really not. And you can't say that 300 billion out of thin air is going to help inflation. No, it's definitely not going to help curb it. It's going to help increase it. And that's just the beginning, right? Wait until First Republic needs to be bailed out once again. And wait until some of those mid-tier banks start talking about needing bailouts. It could all collapse really quickly, okay? So don't be discouraged by what happened today. If anything, you should be more encouraged to buy more Bitcoin or DCA more, and tonight is DCA day, right? But because of today's fall, we had $230 million of liquidations. And you can see right there, we want to see shorts liquidated, not longs. And unfortunately, the longs got wrecked today because too many people got too greedy. Okay, this is why I said many times before, you don't want to play with that crazy leverage. If you're throwing out a 50x, a 100x, a 20x, right? You're very, very likely to get liquidated, and there's no recourse for it. And even the shorts, I mean, you see some red there. Even some of the shorts got liquidated. See, that's the thing. no matter how Bitcoin is moving, both sides loses, and the only side that wins are the exchanges. So don't play with leverage, okay? But I think that had a lot to do with our fall. I think the fall would have been more minimal without the 230 million liquidations, right? Obviously. But you know what? Bitcoin is still in very good shape. Look at Bitcoin versus some of these banks like Silicon Valley, Silvergate, First Republic, Credit Suisse. I bet if there was an ETF on banks, which there is, I'm sure there is, right? But I'm sure they're all in the negatives right now versus Bitcoin, right? Inverse direction. But as for Bitcoin itself, outside of these macro stuff, I mean, Bitcoin's trajectory is still looking great upwards because we still have many, many good things to support what's going on right now, right? This climb from bottom. There's a lot of on-chain metrics and signals and indicators that are showing that we are going to see much greater days in the future. This one is the golden ratio multiplier. Again, you look at whenever Bitcoin crossed above this golden cross, it went up pretty substantially every single time. And we have definitely crossed that. So next stop, according to this, is around 37,000. 37 to 40 to 50. A lot of these charts indicate the same thing. But you know, the fundamentals of Bitcoin continue to get stronger. Countries are also adopting it. El Salvador is ready to launch their Bitcoin mining volcano bonds. That's coming, right? But also there's many other goodness that are also coming. So Bitcoin is the way. Don't be screwed by Powell or Yellen or anyone or banks in general. Stick with Bitcoin. Now, we do have more FUD today, okay? Not just based on Powell and Yellen, but based on the SEC. SEC went after Coinbase today. And here's the thing that irritates me, okay? And this made Coinbase drop like a rock. After they just, hit a new high for this year, they just went down like a rock, as if SEC is trying to make up for something. Well, we know that they're about to lose the Ripple case, right? So now it seems like they want to target someone else because Gary is mad. Gary does not want to lose. So here's the thing that's irritating about this. Coinbase was warned by the SEC that potentially there may be a lawsuit because they conducted security sales or illegal security activities, but they don't really say. And they just warned Coinbase saying that a charge may come. So that it's not definitive that's coming. And what charge is it? We don't know, right? So this is kind of like a blanket warning shot at Coinbase. Basically, Gary is trying to scare the market, right? If you're going to charge someone, charge it. Why do you tell them ahead of time if they don't know what it is and they can't do anything about it? Like, what is the point of that, right? There is no point. The point is just basically press, PR, basically trying to cause FUD, right? That's exactly what I feel like it's happening. Coinbase has been warned by the SEC many times about security charges, but what charges? And why haven't they just filed the charges yet? What is Gary planning on? We don't know. We don't know. So I guess we will have to wait and see. Now, the SEC is not done. They're not just attacking Coinbase, right? But they also charge Tron. Now, I will say this. As badly as I see Gary and the SEC basically attacking crypto, you know what? I think they are probably dead on with this. And I've told you guys this. I don't trust anything that Justin Sun. I don't trust anything from Justin Sun. I don't trust any of his moves, any acquisitions, any of the metrics that show that Tron is in a really good position. I think it's all fake. And this is based on history. If you guys lived through 2017, 18, 19, 20, you would know how much shenanigans this guy has pulled. And that's why I don't trust any of it. So now even the SEC is targeting them based on market manipulation, which I have no doubt actually happened, and many of the other charges against everything else that they had done. So this also happened. And you could see right here on DeFi and Llama, in terms of total value locked on all the chains, Tron is at number 3. Okay. And I'll tell you right off the bat why this doesn't make any sense. Because look at the TVLs of all these major chains, and then look at all the major protocols. You got Ethereum, the big daddy, with 29 billion. You have 712 protocols to make up the 29 billion. Then you have Binance Smart Chain at 5 billion, right? Tied with Tron. But they have 562 protocols. Then you go to Arbitrum at basically 2 billion. You have 248 protocols. Polygon, you have 1 billion, 390 protocols. You notice that everything above top 10 basically, outside of Mixin, which I'm not familiar with, but even at Chronos, right, have 96 protocols. And Tron has a measly 17 for 5 billion. It doesn't make sense when all the other chains have hundreds of protocols, aka dApps, when Tron has 17 and some out of 17 has 5 billion TVL. See, that's just a clear example. There's something wrong there. Something that doesn't add up, right? This is why I've always said stay away from Tron, stay away from BitTorrent, which got renamed, stay away from Huobi because he's going to collapse that just like he did with Poloniex. Everything at Justin Sun is going to go down. So SEC, I think, for this case, they have it right. And they're suing some guys like Jake Paul, which has promoted Tron. I wasn't even aware of that. I didn't even hear about that. But I think they got this case right. But going and trying to attack Coinbase, if you're going to do it, okay? Don't keep warning and giving pre-warnings and more warnings when we don't even know what they are. And we don't know what the repercussions are. Coinbase certainly doesn't know what to do if you're just getting warned, right? This is total nonsense. This is total nonsense. All right. That is pretty much it. Let's do some Q&A. All right. Scrolling up here. Let's see. Did my part. Mike Petercock. What a last name. Petercock. Said, did my part and withdrew 6K today. I mean, Powell said it himself. He can print unlimited amount of money digitally whenever he wants, right? This is a true reason for inflation. But, you know, most people do not know this. Most people don't know that, you know, this kind of dangerous activity just goes on all the time, and that's what's really robbing them. Would SEC ban Coinbase? If they could, I think they would have done it already. So I'm going to say no. They have to give a really, 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 really good reason. And honestly, Coinbase can defend themselves. Coinbase has a ton of money. This is the reason why I think Gary hasn't sued Coinbase yet, because it would be a long, drawn-out battle, and it may end up costing them dearly. They're about to lose the Ripple case. And if they lose another case, say to Grayscale, and they lose the Voyager case, which they did, and they lose a case against Coinbase, basically they would be considered a laughingstock at that point. Then people know exactly what Gary's up to and how to defend themselves. And that is something that, that's something that he has to consider. Thoughts on Coinbase direct deposit? Is it safe? I'm assuming so. I never used it before, but a lot of people are on Coinbase, have used it. They're the biggest exchange in the US, so I would say so. You think more contagion will force the Fed to print infinitely, which will make the dollar worthless? I mean, it's already happening. If all banks went under, guaranteed FDIC does not have enough insurance, and the Fed will try to print as much as possible. But if that case happens, then we will be like Argentina, where the dollar is so worthless, it'll just be all over the place. Like, it'd be on the streets and it'll cost you $1 million to buy a loaf of bread. So let's hope that doesn't happen anytime soon. But as time goes on and more printing is done and inflation continues to eat at everyone's money every single year, eventually you go notice it. You won't notice it until it's too late, basically. It's going to happen slowly over time, but really add up. Edward, no, I have no comments on them. The True King says Shiba Inu, okay. Coinbase is licensed to sell securities and was signed off to go public by the SEC. Yeah, I mean, Coinbase, I remember, did get that license, but I think they're going to go after them for other things. I don't know. Coinbase does have, hundreds of tokens that they sell, right? So if they sue them, they're going to say something like, oh, you are selling these illegal securities, or I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, if they're going to do it, they should just do it. But they're not. They're just warning and trying to scare the bejesus out of people again. How does a coin lose its staking like Algo? And can it happen to every other coin like Cosmosis? What do you mean, Angel? You mean be hacked? Have vulnerabilities? Sure, it can happen. It has happened many other chains before. Rashid, you are right, George. 30K still coming soon. This is a buy opportunity for people to afford. What are your 60-day thought on the chart? I mean, you know what? We're pressed against. Okay, we're pressed against this 28.7. If we break through that, we were really, really, really close, right? That was the first time we got rejected. We'll probably test it again sometime, maybe even tomorrow, later this week, right? I just say, I don't know about 30 days. First things first. We got to get into this range, right? Break into the 30, 31. Afterwards, if we break through that, I mean, you know, obviously it's the 40s. I mean, you zoom out a little bit, you look at after breaking through here, you go up here, there's big space over here, right? Bitcoin could stay right around 40s, can go as high as 50, you know? Possibilities are endless where Bitcoin could be in 60 days. First things first, to get into 30s, and I still think that is right around the corner. Robert, I appreciate that. Neth. If the SEC loses one case based on the law as it stands, isn't there a risk they just amend the law so they get what they want on a moving forward basis? Well, the thing is, they can't just change the laws by themselves. You know, they have to get Congress to approve that. And not everyone is a fan of Gary. A lot of people are against Gary. So, I mean, technically what you're saying is true, but it's not as easily done as said. Can you recommend a good hardware wallet? Ledger. Use my affiliate link in the description. Ledger, in my opinion, is probably the best hardware wallet out there. There's many options. I didn't do DCA today. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me answer these real quick. Thoughts on Hedera. Let's just say as promised, but I'm neutral on it. Odds that Yellen's favorite cookies are oatmeal rice. I don't know. That's hilarious. Anyways, I got my DCA portfolio up. It's now at negative 27%, which is a little bit better than last week, I think. If you do 1 week, 0. It didn't change for last week. Wait, nope, that didn't. Let me update this. Maybe I signed me out. Hold on. Let me sign back in here. Man, I was wishing we would be at 29 because that percentage would be like in the teens. But, you know, we'll get there. Let me log in again. All right. So, for the month, we're up barely. For the week, we're still up. The last 3 months, up majorly, right? So, pretty good. But today, we fell down a little bit. Overall, though, we are gaining. So it's just a matter of time. We get back to even, and then we break in green. Like right now, I got to say, because Bitcoin is so strong and, you know, nothing really is outperforming Bitcoin, I'm just going to DCA in Bitcoin. There's nothing wrong. Whenever you want to DCA, you don't know what to DCA in, there's nothing wrong with just going to Bitcoin. So today, that is exactly what I'm going to do. Just get more Bitcoin. Everything I've been saying about Bitcoin, distrusting banks, opting out of financial system, right? It makes sense. So another 0.367. All right, so $100 into Bitcoin. We'll see where we end up next week. Although next week I may not be able to do this because next week I'll be in LA recording for the next Crypto Gem. Very excited about that show. All right, so this week, just good old Bitcoin. Nothing fancy. It's white. I appreciate that, man. I do. Really appreciate your support. I try to do my best, try to explain things as simply as I can so that you guys can understand what's really going on. And the more you understand what's going on, the more you love Bitcoin. I mean, really. That's how I see it. All right. DXY is 102. Yes, DXY started going down. And whenever DXY goes down, it's really good. So here's a DXY indicator. It's at 102, but we want to see it drop more, obviously. Want to see it get back to 100 and maybe even below 100. That's when exciting things really happen. So DXY going down is really good. And you could obviously see there's an inverse relationship. When DXY went up to 105, Bitcoin was at 19, right? So at times there is a direct inverse relationship between DXY and Bitcoin. Not always, but sometimes. Zan Kang, I appreciate that. Hopefully that's the truth. ETH top prediction and bull. I'd say like 15,000. I think that's very realistic. That could happen. 15,000 in the next bull run at peak. Yeah. You know, I know Raul Paul said 30,000. I think that may be a little bit high, but 15. Tiberius asks, when am I going to get Powell on the show? And am I going to invite him to GeorgeCon? I will. I certainly sent an invite, but I doubt he's going to appear. But yeah, I like to ask him some hard questions. I like to think, I could stump Powell, but I don't think I can. The guy's smart. The guy's really smart. He's stuck between a rock and hard place. He's doing what he can, but today I feel like he was disingenuous because he said some stuff I feel like was not true, and he kind of misled with some of I don't know, innuendo, or he was insinuating things that shouldn't be, So today was just, I think he was off his game today because he was really trying to save face for the banks. Today ultimately was to save face for the banks. It wasn't really about the rate hike at all. It was about to reassure people that the banks are good, and SVB was just a solo thing, and there's no worry about it, right? There's no worry about any other bank collapsing like First Republic. And everything is going to be covered, which Yellen did say afterwards, no, it's not. So, there was just a few things. Miguel, do you like Phantom or Avalanche better as a secondary? I don't know what you mean by secondary, but between the two, I kind of like Phantom better. But I think they're both great. I did not watch the interview between Warren and Powell. How far do you think the Lakers will get in the playoffs? I don't know. They seem to be kind of gelling. If LeBron is not injured, maybe they could do pretty well in the playoffs. If AD stays healthy, LeBron stays healthy with their new cast, and Austin Rivers is doing well, and then who's that guy that got back? The guy that could shoot pretty well. I forgot his name, but they all seem to be gelling pretty well right now. So hopefully. All right, guys. Let's conclude. Well, I said my piece. If you missed it, scroll to the beginning, rewatch the beginning. But today was not Powell's best day. And that's why if you don't want to be screwed by Powell and Yellen, you need to go buy some Bitcoin. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow, bright and early, 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.